The day my home was stolen, a neighborhood tyrant's fall. Imagine pulling into your driveway after a long trip, only to find your key doesn't work. The porch light is glowing, though you know you turned it off. Through the window, you see movement inside your own house, someone lounging in your favorite chair, flipping through your magazines like they own the place. That's exactly what happened to me, and the person behind it was none other than Barbara Whitaker, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association. What she didn't know was that her audacious power grab was about to land her in handcuffs, in front of the entire neighborhood. My name is David Peterson, a 52-year-old project manager for a consulting firm. 3 weeks ago, I was sent to Phoenix for a month-long client project. Before leaving, I asked my neighbor, Tom Reynolds, to keep an eye on my place, water the plants, grab the mail, the usual. I kept the utilities running, paid my mortgage on time, and even had groceries delivered twice. My house was far from abandoned, but that didn't stop Barbara from spinning her own narrative. Barbara Whitaker had been our HOA president for 2 years, ruling our quiet suburban cul-de-sac like a dictator. She was the type to measure your lawn with a tape measure and slap you with a fine for a mailbox that leaned an inch too far to the left. During my absence, she decided my house looked too empty for her liking. In her warped mind, that meant I'd abandoned it. So, she took it upon herself to change the locks, move in her belongings, and claim my home as community property. I pulled into my driveway on a chilly Tuesday evening, bone-tired from an 8-hour drive. My key wouldn't turn in the lock. At first, I thought the cold had jammed it. Then I noticed the porch light was on a red flag since I always switch it off before traveling. Peering through the window, I saw a shadow moving inside. My heart raced. Was this a break-in? I called Tom, who was as baffled as I was. After a tense 45-minute wait for a 24-hour locksmith, we got the door open and there she was. Barbara sat in my leather recliner, feet propped on my coffee table, watching my 75-inch TV like she'd lived there for years. Her reading glasses perched on her nose. She flipped through my copy of National Geographic with infuriating calm. When she saw me, she flashed a condescending smile. "Well, David, nice of you to finally show up," she said in that syrupy tone she used at HOA meetings. "I've taken temporary custody of this property under Section 14 of the HOA Abandonment Clause. It's been vacant for over 21 days, which constitutes abandonment." I stood there, dumbfounded, as she waved a manila folder like it was a court order. My house fully furnished, with my family photos on the walls and my coffee mugs in the kitchen, was somehow abandoned. I told her to leave immediately, that this was my home, and I had every legal right to be here. Barbara just chuckled, shaking her head like I was some clueless kid. "That's not how it works, David," she said. "I filed paperwork with the county clerk and established a legal claim under adverse possession laws. This property was becoming an eyesore, and I stepped in to protect the neighborhood." Her audacity was breathtaking. I stepped outside and called 911, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained to the dispatcher that someone had broken into my home and was living there. Within 15 minutes, Officers Daniels and Carter arrived. I met them at the curb, laying out the situation. I'd been away for work, came home to find new locks, and discovered the HOA president treating my house like her personal Airbnb. Barbara emerged from the front door, clutching a stack of papers and radiating confidence. She launched into a rehearsed speech about her authority as HOA president, waving her documents and citing community guidelines and abandonment procedures. For a moment, I worried the officers might buy her act. She was that convincing, speaking with the poise of someone who believed she was untouchable. Then Officer Daniels asked for proof of ownership. I was ready. I pulled out my driver's license showing my address, last month's mortgage statement, utility bills in my name, and my homeowner's insurance policy. Every document screamed that this was my house, maintained and occupied, even during my temporary absence. Barbara's smug grin faltered when Officer Carter turned to her, asking for similar proof. She stammered, offering only vague references to HOA bylaws and photocopied pages from what she claimed were legal statutes. When Officer Carter examined them, he pointed out they were just printouts from a property management blog. Zero legal weight. The mood shifted. Officer Daniels radioed for backup, while Officer Carter explained to Barbara that her actions constituted unlawful entry, trespassing, and possibly burglary. Her face drained of color. She started backtracking, insisting it was a misunderstanding and that she was only protecting property values. By now, neighbors were gathering on the sidewalk, drawn by the flashing police lights. Barbara's nervous glances betrayed her she knew her reign of terror was unraveling in front of the people she'd bullied for years. Officer Daniels ordered her to gather her belongings and leave immediately. But Barbara wasn't done. She whipped out her phone, claiming she was calling her lawyer to sort this out. After a heated, whispered conversation, she hung up, looking defeated. Even her attorney couldn't conjure a defense for breaking into someone's home. When a second police unit arrived, Barbara made one last desperate stand, waving her HOA president badge like it was a sheriff's star. "I have authority," she shrieked, lecturing the officers about community standards and her duty to maintain property values. The officers weren't having it. Officer Carter calmly explained that HOA rules don't override state law, and her actions were criminal. That's when Barbara lost it. Her voice rose to a piercing wail as she accused me of being an irresponsible homeowner for leaving my house unattended. She claimed she was the real victim, having sacrificed years to keep the neighborhood pristine. The neighbors watched, whispering among themselves, as their HOA tyrant unraveled. Officer Carter stepped forward with handcuffs, informing Barbara she was under arrest for criminal trespass, unlawful entry, and destruction of property for changing my locks. As the cuffs clicked shut, her expression morphed from fury to disbelief. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president," she shouted, as if the title granted her diplomatic immunity. The sight of her being escorted to the police cruiser, still ranting about community standards, was surreal. Officer Daniels gently guided her into the back seat, and the car pulled away as half the neighborhood watched in stunned silence. With Tom's help, I changed the locks back that night. My house felt like mine again, though the violation lingered. Neighbors approached me, sharing their own stories of Barbara's HOA tyranny, fines for minor infractions, threats over holiday decorations, even harassment over paint colors. It was clear her arrest was a long overdue reckoning. 3 days later, I received a letter from the HOA board. Barbara had been permanently removed as president and banned from holding any future HOA position. Her actions were deemed a gross abuse of power. She faced felony charges for burglary and criminal trespass, with potential penalties of up to 3 years in prison and $10,000 in fines. At her preliminary hearing, I saw her in court, sitting rigid next to her attorney, her face a mix of rage and disbelief as the judge read the charges. The woman who'd terrorized our neighborhood was finally facing real consequences. This ordeal was a wake-up call. It exposed how far someone can go when they believe their authority is absolute. Barbara's downfall wasn't just about her arrest, it was about a community reclaiming its peace from a tyrant who hid behind rules and power. My home is mine again, and the neighborhood feels lighter without her shadow. What do you think about this? Have you ever dealt with someone who abused their power or faced an injustice that left you speechless? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear where you stand on confronting bullies and standing up to unfairness. Let's get the conversation going.